The Miami Dolphins take on the San Francisco 49ers this Sunday. I'm here to break it all down. Obviously, the Dolphins' playoff possibilities are basically zero.
It's pretty difficult to put into words how disgusted I am, how depressed I am.
I'm not really going to talk about that. I'm going to talk about, obviously, this upcoming matchup, as well as some of the underlying issues with the squad and what you kind of want to see rest of season going forward and what they're going to have to look to build into the offseason, because as they've shown this year, this team just isn't good enough. And like I said, I'm going to dig into some of that in this video. So starting with the Dolphins offense versus the 49ers defense. Dolphins offense is 24th in points per game. Niners defense is 17th in points allowed. In terms of the rushing game, the Dolphins are 26th in rushing yards per game. 49ers are 15th in rushing yards allowed. And I think that statistic right there goes to show a lot of what went wrong with the Miami Dolphins this season. Last year, I believe we were first in rushing yards per game for majority of the season. Although that statistic, in my opinion, was slightly inflated last year due to some very huge games in the rushing game against poor teams. As we've seen, the Dolphins do not perform well against the best teams. And I think that was inflated last year, but still significantly better. And where has that gone wrong, in my opinion? Part of that, obviously, is just unfortunate injuries to the tackle positions. The Dolphins banked on having their tackles be able to perform and kind of make up for the ugly guard play. That's how this scheme is designed. They put a lot of stress on the tackles, and the guards kind of just help. They don't have to do a lot of the heavy lifting. And the guard play, like the offensive line play in general, was pretty good when we had a healthy Teron Armstead and Austin Jackson. But you know Armstead was going to go down with injury, but then Austin Jackson also went down with injury. And then Austin Jackson's backup also went down with injury. And that's why it was so ugly last week against the Texans. But when you lack that continuity at the tackle position, the guard play gets exposed even worse. So I think the Dolphins should hopefully have learned their lesson, and I will take accountability too. I said that offensive line wasn't an issue, and once again, I think the offensive line play was pretty good when we had our tackles there, but it got completely exposed. And I think the poor guard play is a big reason for the poor rushing performance on a consistency basis between the guard play and then the skill positions between tight ends and receivers. A lot of big plays negated by holdings from receivers, tight ends. That's a lot of what's went wrong with this run game, and why I've been a proponent of potentially looking to trade Tyreek Hill and kind of just change your approach offensively and kind of look like the San Francisco 49ers, which we're going to see this week. You're going to see how this Niners offense operates, and that's how I would like to see Mike McDaniel transition this offense to look like a more run-heavy attack. And you can see how their passing game operates with a lot of the good play-action passing they have. Like, it makes offense look a lot simpler than the Dolphins have with this very complex scheme. Obviously, some of the complexity is nice, but I think they need to simplify this offense, and I think that starts with this rushing game, getting it going, be able to insert your will against good teams, and then having the play action pass off of that. And if you get better blocking at the skill position, once again, how many big runs have we seen these past few weeks just get called back because of a Tyreek holding? Imagine if it's, once again, Tyreek is a superstar. I don't want to get that twisted, but imagine if instead of Tyreek, it was like a 6'2", 210 receiver that provides some run after catch like physicality. I think that would help bode well for building that run game, and I think you have to bank on, and he got paid to do so, Jalen Waddle taking that next step to be the number one guy. And I think he can be. Obviously, he's been injured, which is unfortunate, but I think that's where I would like to see this offense to go. Get better at the skill position in terms of blocking, improve guard play, and I think it'll bode well. The thing with the Dolphins, too, is when they have invested in the offensive line, they've hit on it between just the beginning of the Mike McDaniel era. Connor Williams was a hit. Aaron Brewer's been a hit. Teron Armstead, when healthy, has been a hit. Patrick Paul appears to be good. So the Dolphins know what kind of offensive lineman they need. It's just about actually spending those resources. So I think if they spend on guard, they'll actually hit on it, whether it's second, third round pick, $5 to $6 million player. I think that's all they really need to do to bolster this offensive line. But that's it. Enough of my yapping. Dolphins passing attack versus the Niners passing defense. The Dolphins are 14th in passing yards per game. The Niners are second in passing yards allowed. So Niners, similar to the Texans, are a very good pass defense. Obviously have an elite pass rusher in Nick Bosa, who's going to be healthy. And I'll keep it a buck. I mean, this game's going to come down to if the Dolphins are healthy at tackle, I think they can win. If not, they have no chance. Nick Bosa will absolutely ruin our day. They don't have a lot of standout names outside of Bosa anymore, but still, if we don't have Kendall Lamb or Teron Armstead, we're cooked. Going to be interesting to see how Mike McDaniel adapts to the potential looks he's going to get after the Texans kind of exposed us with running that single high coverage, but then running cover two invert out of it and disguising their man coverage looks very well. There was times where we would motion and their player would follow, which is a man coverage indicator, and then they run zone out of it. So the Texans had a tremendous game plan, and generally when teams have success against you, you're going to continue to see that until you prove that you can beat it. So it's going to be interesting to see that chess game and see if McDaniel finally can find an answer for that. I think that's, once again, the season's kind of over, but seeing how this team fights and how they perform against some of these looks is going to be awesome going forward, and to see what you actually have. And then to recap the keys, try to establish the run. We haven't been able to all season long, but it'd be nice to see if we're able to. It's disappeared ever since Austin Jackson went down with injury. Win ugly. That's a big thing too with this team, is like last week we had an opportunity to win ugly in terms of the offense, and we turned the ball over 4 times. If we even cut those turnovers in half and kick field goals, we'd probably win that football game. But instead, we pressed the issue, overly aggressive, and it costed us. So I think win ugly, even if that means you're punting more, you're running the ball more, especially like that defensive performance we have. If you win, like if you play ugly offense, you might actually sneak out wins instead of throwing as many turnovers and forcing fumbles and putting your defense in that terrible position that we did. And then adapt to the Texans game plan that we'll likely see from the 49ers. As I mentioned, they're probably going to span the middle of the field, run a lot of cover 2 invert, keep that middle safety right in that throwing window that Tua likes to hit. And you're going to have to be able to throw to the outsides more and potentially take some deep shots down the middle of the field. So that's my keys for the Dolphins offense. Players to watch for this Niners defense. They still got some dogs. Nick Bosa, Fred Warner, probably 2 of the best players at their position. Dre Greenlaw is back from injury, and then their corner duo of Travarius Ward and Mondre Lenore are probably a top 3 cornerback duo in all of football. So they've got a very good defense into their offense, which is also a tremendous unit, but obviously the injury bug caught them a little bit, and they've just kind of not been as good. They're 16th in points per game. Dolphins defense is 13th in points allowed. And I want to give credit to Anthony Weaver. I think he's proven he can be a very good defensive coordinator. With that said, there's been a lot of ups and downs from his defense, but overall his numbers are good, and I'm very excited to see what he can continue to build on if the coaching staff remains and if he doesn't get a head coaching job, which I kind of expect both to happen. I know the comments are probably going to be filled with get rid of Tua and McDaniel. I don't see either of those happening, and I'd like to see Anthony Weaver remain a Miami Dolphin. In terms of rushing attack, the Niners are 8th in rushing yards per game, and the Dolphins are 8th in rushing yards allowed. So Dolphins' run defense has been very good. I know I've mentioned it multiple times in these preview videos. This is why you go to the educated Dolphins fans to inform you. I'm not even the most educated. Like Kyle Krabs is the top dude. Travis Wingfield's also up there. There's beat reporters who get paid to cover this team that were telling you that this run defense wasn't good enough and that the defensive tackles weren't good enough, and we're 8th in rushing yards allowed while playing light boxes. Like the defensive line has been rock solid, despite a lot of injuries at the edge position, which have also impacted our ability to do certain things. But our run game has been good, but once again, key to stopping this Niners offense is to be able to win first down and stop their running game. Because if you allow them to run for 4 or 5 yards of carry, they will continue to take it, play action pass, and leave your defense in vulnerable positions. So try your best to stop the run, because it's going to be a long day if you can. They're going to be without their running back, Isaac Garenda. They're on to their, I believe, like 4th or 5th running back at this point. But this scheme, as we've seen the Niners do, they just, whoever is in the backfield, they'll be able to make the right plays. In terms of their passing offense, they're still very good. Niners are 10th in passing yards per game. The Dolphins are 8th in passing yards allowed. They have a great passing attack. Once again, I think the key is to be able to win on first down, make them in obvious passing situations. It's kind of similar to the Dolphins. Make them get to 2nd and 3rd and long and be able to get after them. Brock Purdy is a great player. I remember his first ever NFL starting snaps was against the Dolphins after we hurt Jimmy G, and right away I knew he was a dog. We had that Josh Boyer aggressive blitzing scheme, and that man had answers for all of our pressures. He was locked in. He's a very good player, and it's going to be interesting to see if Anthony Weaver can kind of confuse him a little bit with his pressure packages. It's going to be interesting to see. But once again, key to stopping this Niners offense: stop the run, get them in obvious passing downs, and try and get a turnover. Players to watch for this Niners offense: Jawan Jennings, very good player. I forget if he's a free agent or not. I would like him to be a potential target for the Miami Dolphins. He can block, and he kind of, once again, fits that skill set of what I'm looking for at the receiver position. Deebo Samuel kind of regressed. He's missed a lot of plays with drops and whatnot, but he's still a very dynamic player with the ball in his hands. Brock Purdy, once again, as I mentioned, a lot of credit to him. I think a lot of people like to trash on him because they don't understand the importance of a lot of things that QBs do between manipulation of defenses, timing, accuracy, anticipation. He does a lot of those things. Once again, is he superhero like Josh Allen? No, but he plays the position very well. And then George Kittle, probably my favorite tight end in all football. And I think the best tight ends in football are the ones that can both catch and block. And George Kittle is the best at doing both. And once again, I'd love for the Dolphins to be able to get their George Kittle in this offense. I think it would be a game changer and something they should look for in this offseason. But obviously, George Kittle, one of the best tight ends in all football. So prediction time, I am 33-16 lifetime predicting Miami Dolphins games, 10-4 this year on picking Dolphins games. For my prediction this week, it's going to be my first ever time I'm going to use a caveat. So if the Dolphins are without both Teron Armstead and Kendall Lamb, I have the Miami Dolphins losing 27-17. If one or both of our tackles are healthy, I have us winning 27-24. So depending on the health of our tackles will depend the outcome of this game per my prediction. I appreciate you guys for watching. Comment your predictions down below. Like and subscribe to help the channel grow. And until next time, fins up.